Da-da! Has it worked? Has it worked? Has it worked? That's the question. Has it worked? Let me just message this out on my other channel. Try and get some more people in here. But hello everybody. Let me just make sure it's coming through fine. This is the first one I've done on here, so in here. There we go. There we go. Oh dear. Ah, there we go. There we go. Hello. Let me just share this. That there. Hello everybody. Yeah, so what I wanted to talk about was this new reveal that's come out. Now for that, if you've come over from the Warhammer channel, I'm sort of away at the minute, so I'm working. I've had to set up a hotspot on my phone, and I'm sat at a table in this living room with my laptop. So apologies, this isn't the normal standard you're probably used to, but I wanted to talk about this because I just seen it got revealed, and it's got some really interesting questions about what they're going to do with this Amazon TV show. Now I know what you're thinking; it's going to be terrible. And I'm hoping it isn't, right? I'm hoping it isn't, because it's going to be it would be very difficult to do Lord of the Rings badly. That's my hope, anyway. That's my hope. So, yeah, that's why I'm going to just have a quick look at this picture. But if you haven't seen it, it's all over, basically. If you search, still being a limey Brit Razzleberry. Yes, I am, unfortunately, yes. But I thought I'd just do this stream. It's also the fact that I'm kind of away at the minute. I'm on business. And I'm kind of on my own. So I wouldn't say I'm lonely, but I'm bored. And this came out, and I'm like, yeah, okay, let's do a quick stream about this then. And it's a refreshing thing to do, I think, because I'm really into Lord of the Rings of late. So this is a new picture that's been released. You can see there. Yeah, I'll try and do it again with this channel. I'm not too sure how I'm going to do it with live streaming and stuff like this. Maybe I'll do a bit of live streaming now and again. But I'll definitely be the first video you can expect sort of towards the end of September, I reckon, how it's going to work out. Proper lore videos, kind of like what I do with the Warhammer stuff on the 40k channel. For those of you, if you're watching this and you don't know, you've never seen my Warhammer stuff, it's linked on the front page of the channel. So yeah, this picture, what we've got is, this is all we've got. This is all we've got. But it immediately raises a lot of questions. So this is in Valinor, clearly. Ah, thank you, Razzleberry. I appreciate that. Yeah, so this is in Valinor. For those of you who don't know, so this is confirming a lot of stuff for us, and it's confirming that it's happening a hell of a long time before Lord of the Rings is happening. This is some deep Silmarillion level shit. Now we knew that was going to happen, but there was a lot of talk about, is it going to be the fall of Numenor? You know, that sort of thing. And it's not. It's not. There's not going to be any human beings. There's not going to be any men in this show for a long time. This is going to be a lot of this. I mean, well, all right. This might be just some kind of like intro, you know, some first episode, sort of what happened with the gods. Kind of like what it does with Lord of the Rings, you know, and it gives you a sort of intro of, you know, but there were some who resisted. All that stuff. It gives you the exposition and puts you in the place in the world. Sorry, I haven't planned this at all. I literally just saw this about like 10, 20 minutes ago. And I thought, you know what? I'll just do a stream because I want to get started with this Lord of the Rings thing. And if you are interested in doing anything like YouTube and stuff like this, I recommend the best thing you can do is just get started doing it and then see where you go from there. So that's why I'm just starting. So apologies if this isn't the most detailed thing ever. I've got no Lord of the Rings books with me or anything. This is mostly off memory, to be honest. So this is Valinor. Clearly, this is the land of the dead, the land of the gods, basically, where the Valar live, who are essentially gods. I'm not getting. Let's not get pedantic. All right, they're basically gods. All right, they're parts of the essence and the mind of the one god. You know. So this is a place that's ruled by the Valar, who are the gods, and they'll also have their own. Oh God, I can't even remember the words now. I should have looked some stuff up, hadn't I? I should have looked some stuff up. Yeah, let me see if I can remember the words because I can't remember. I've got nothing written down. and I haven't looked at anything for a while. And the last thing I was reading was the Unfinished Tales. So it was mostly about Gondor stuff. So I just can't remember. Yeah, the gods, the gods, the gods. Ah, Manwe. Eru, the god, of course. um, the Ainur, yeah, the Valar are the 14 Ainur who were being moulded of Eru's thought, and yeah, so they're like parts of his mind given form, basically, and independence. Um, what are their little helpers called? I forgot what their little helpers are called. You see as well because I've read all this stuff over and over again, and I've read all this stuff over and over again, but a lot of the words I haven't said out loud ever in my life, so that's something I'm gonna have to get used to saying if I'm doing this sort of stuff. Yeah, he was a Maya, the Maya. That's it. There we go. I remember now. So what we can see though straight away is the trees in the background. So that means that puts it way back, way back. Potentially, I mean, this might be Morgoth, right? Because this is the time when Morgoth could still take form, which he loses, of course, when he allies with the Queen of Spiders, Ungoliant, and she will then devour, which is a great little story, but she will then devour the world trees there, and the world will fall into darkness, and that will be the start of the war. Now, if I'm thinking about what they're going to do, it is. I mean, that's the main driving part of this story now, because then it gets into the elves. Then there's a bunch of other stuff that happens with the elves, but it gets to them then going off to fight Morgoth in Middle Earth. So I think that's probably where we are. We're before that. Obviously, we're before that because the trees are still there. But it just depends how far you're going back. Is it going to cover the first war, where I imagine it's going to be the first war where they imprison Morgoth. Maybe it's Morgoth trying to break out, and or that potentially could be Sauron. But I think it's probably Morgoth because he is the big bad. You know what I mean? He is the big bad in all ways. Sauron is but a shadow of his terrible glory. So that's kind of what I'm thinking with it. I think this is clearly the land of the dead. This is the capital city there. So we're going to meet all of the Ainur and the Maya. Are we going to see like Gandalf or something like that? You might get a hint. You might see someone. You might meet someone who could potentially become Gandalf. Maybe not in the form that they take as the wizards, if you get me, because they can take different forms. But if that's the case, if that's the timeline we're on, we've got a lot of stuff coming up with that. If they're going to keep this running, if it's going to be a success, and they're going to run through basically everything that sort of exists in the lore, in the background, in the Silmarillion, in the Unforgotten, in the Unfinished Tales, stuff like that, then they're starting off at a good point. Because again, I'm thinking like, would this be that? I don't think this would be the intro thing because you'd want to explain everything. It'll start with the music. If they're doing their job right as writers. And, obviously, these people should know what they're doing. But they need to start with the music, with the music of Iluvatar. It's like... There's interesting points here, but I think that's probably where it's going to be. This, to me, says... I'm just guessing. This is Malkor, or Morgoth, sort of being imprisoned, and where he finally gets let out, I guess. Because who would that figure be? Who would that figure be otherwise, Who would that figure be? Unless it's Fingolfin. It could be Fingolfin. But no, hang on. Yeah, because Fingolfin's there, isn't he, when the trees die? Yes, yeah, so it could be Fingolfin, which is a big thing with the elves, if those of you don't know. I'll make videos explaining all this, eh? But that's where I am now. I'm quite excited about this because this does look sick. This looks really sick to me. This looks really beautiful and great, actually. So I don't know yet, and I'm hoping it's good. But this puts it in a place that I know there's a lot of really awesome things that can occur, and it will be, it's going to be kind of weird because it's not going to be like Lord of the Rings, especially if it's this stuff, because it has to be a bit more sort of. It can't be as gritty fantasy as you would get in Lord of the... Not gritty, but you know what I mean, like realistic a little bit. It's got a bit of a grounding to it. It's a world. Whereas this, you're dealing with gods and spiritual powers and stuff like that, you know? So there's a lot more hocus pocus kind of stuff going on in this period. And, I mean, the whole thing with Ungoliant and Morgoth, I mean, he turns into a cloud. You get me? You know... there's a lot of I think there's a lot of sort of metaphysical. Well, you see, Tolkien says he doesn't talk in metaphors, but then again, he's dealing with myth. He's actually writing mythology here in an actual mythological sense, rather than because he doesn't like allegory. You see, he never liked allegory. So I mean, I'm interested what they're going to do with this. Really, I mean, that's an amazing picture. That's an amazing picture. As a fan of Lord of the Rings, I'm struck of I'm like wow, you know. I mean, I'm trying to see if there's anything else there, if I can make out anything. I don't think. There's not a giant spider, is there? But, yeah, just looking deeply at it. I mean, if you can't see it either, hopefully you can see. Let's zoom in, shall we? Let's zoom in. Let's zoom in. Can we zoom in? See, I'm prepared. Oh yeah, can I just change? Should be able to transform it and make it bigger. Hang on. Can I zoom? How do I zoom? It's been a while since I've done any of this. Hang on. Okay. Not rotate. No. Oh god, that's too complicated. Let's just wiggle it. Let's just wiggle it until we get the size we want. Okay. So as you can see, it's the trees that are the most important thing. Don't be distracted by this fella because we don't know who it is. I think it's a bloke, but it could be an elf. You know what I mean? Like, it could be Fingolfin. But then why would he be here? He's got his own sort of... He did have his own... He's got his own crib. You know what I mean? On the coast. So... And this isn't the normal representation of Sauron that we're used to, and they're aware of the popularity to an extent of the games, where Sauron has that. Then again, he wouldn't look like that, would he? Because the elves would recognise him, and he isn't really a prominent figure in this. You get me? It's after he becomes a prominent figure. He becomes, you know, Morgoth's top boy. That's when he turns into a wolf and stuff like that. So yeah, maybe it's more. I think it's Morgoth in his nice form, which would probably be a good way of starting off the show, because you get to see him before he's stuck in the body of a tyrant, if you get me, because that's what he becomes stuck in the body of a tyrant because he's fighting with Ungoliant. As she devours the trees and she becomes too powerful and she almost tries to eat him because she has an all-consuming hunger, and that's where Shelob comes from. Obviously Shelob's a descendant because she went down there and mated. She went to the south of Middle-earth. She fled with Morgoth back to Middle-earth, and then she fled from him and fled down south, and that's where she ended up living, and she gave birth to lots of different creatures because she mated with them and then ate them, but she gave birth to all these creepy crawlies, spiders, all that sort of stuff, and she lived deep in the south of Middle-earth, until she died and consumed herself, of course, with a unconquerable hunger. So yeah, you know, there's all sorts of stuff going on with this picture, and I am pretty excited about it. So I'll look at the chat, see if any of you guys are in it. Oh, it's just you. It's just you. Well, Razzleberry. This is kind of just, there's not much else to say, really. I mean, I can just speculate more, but you know, if you know Lord of the Rings, you can speculate yourself, I guess. I mean, there's not much. It's pretty clear. It's the Two Trees era. It's before the trees were destroyed. So it's before. I mean, this is Is this first age? I forget. No, it's got to be second age. Because they remake the planet and they give birth. Two of the Maya kind of, I think it's kind of, I can't remember the exact wordage. I think one of them maybe sacrifices themselves to become the sun. And then that's the birth of the sun. Whereas before the world was lit up by these trees. But of course the world was flat then, you see. And that isn't, I'm just getting a timeline right in my head. So it's after they defeat Morgoth and cast him out, then they remake the world, and that's when they give men Numenor, the men who fought with them. But we've got a lot to go. I mean, you've got like the better part of I think a couple of thousand years worth of time, you know. And there's so much that happens in there before you even get to men. You know, crossing over from the east, you're dealing with the elves here, you know. But it'll be interesting to see what they do. I mean, I'd like to, you know, the story of the Black Sword, you know, of its origins, everything, all that sort of stuff. So, yeah, and Gondolin and everything. I mean, there's so much in this period. There's so much here, so much here. It's actually insane the amount of stuff that's here. It's actually insane. If they're starting off at this point, it's basically the Silmarillion. And they're going to splice it together somehow. I don't know how. It's very difficult to do because you're talking about, you know, the time gaps in between stuff is insane. And there's no men. In this period, there is no men, no humans, no nothing. You get a long time before you meet, you know, Beren is a player, or Turin is a player, or any men for that matter. You've got a long way to go. I mean, it'd be a long time if you even come into contact with dwarfs, really. It's just going to be an elf fest and demons and orcs. So, you know, I mean, it's interesting what's happening with the elves. I don't know how they're going to do that because everybody's going to be an elf. You know, I mean, obviously they'll have dark elves and you've got the different tribes of elves. It's interesting, man. I'm actually really interested by this. This has actually excited me. And again, I'm hoping the show's really good. But, you know, I wouldn't be surprised if it wasn't. But I am still holding out hope that it is really, really good. But, that's pretty much, I don't know. That's pretty much all I got to, that's all I had to say, to be honest, lads. Just a quick one, I guess. I hope you do enjoy this. Do stick with the channel. I'll be doing some actual proper stuff, not just hodgepodging it like this. If you do want to get up on Lord of the Rings, if you do want to understand this period, you know, so when this TV show comes out, and assuming it's good, if you want to be that person, like some of us were when Game of Thrones was out, and we knew what was coming, sinking out like a big head, and you know what's coming, I recommend getting the Silmarillion. If you're not a big reader, it's a bit of a hard slog to get through, and the Unfinished Tales are also a little bit of a hard slog. Just based on people that friends of mine who've tried to read them and stuff, they have trouble with them. And I understand why, because they are like, you know, I read a lot of like classical history and stuff, so I'm kind of used to this kind of thing, you know. You try to read Josephus, you see if you're having a good time, you know what I mean? So I recommend getting the audiobooks, and the audiobooks are pretty good. The Silmarillion one is one of the best performed audiobooks I've ever heard, and I've listened to a lot of audiobooks, you know. And the one that's on Audible, that is or whatever you use, Audible or whatever you use, the one that's the Unfinished Tales, that's pretty good as well. All of them are good. Or get the Lord of the Rings ones and listen to them again, because they're really well performed. There's one, it's called the best. There's two versions of the Lord of the Rings. There's a more recent one, and there's one by an older bloke, and it's from like 1992. But it's great because it's an old bloke, and he does all the voices, he sings all the songs. It's really good. I recommend it completely. But if you want to get to know this, pick up the Silmarillion audiobook, whatever way you can, and give it a listen. I got mine on Audible, so it was cheap, but I recommend it. Yeah, it's a really good tale as well, and it'll enhance your enjoyment of Lord of the Rings if you're into Lord of the Rings. So yeah, that's all I got to say, really, boys. I figured I better say something because I really want to get into doing Lord of the Rings stuff. So this is my first. You've joined me on my first time. All right, I'm gonna go. thank you all very, very much. Do like the stream. I appreciate that. I'll be back again with more stuff soon. All right. Thanks very much. Have a good one. Bye bye.